Have you ever really looked up at the sky? At the stars standing there? At that silent but seemingly endless void? Have you ever wondered, why are we here? This world, how did it come to be? Humanity has asked this question since its existence. Ancient civilizations tried to explain it with creation myths, stories of gods shaping the earth, waters descending from the sky, and the universe being born from the pieces of giant monsters. However, over time, observation, logic, and the scientific method came into play. And now, we can tell the story of Earth not only with myths, but also with the language of stardust, planets, and evolution. Today, I will take you back 4.5 billion years, to those moments when nothing existed, only darkness and raw energy roamed. Because this world, the place you walk on, live in, and love, is actually a miracle born out of chaos. And understanding this miracle is the first step to understanding ourselves. By the way, this is my first video on YouTube. I hope you like it. If you want more of this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Now let's continue with the story of Earth's formation from where we left off. Everything started approximately 13.8 billion years ago. The event we call the Big Bang was the first moment the universe came into existence. We call it a bang, but it wasn't actually an explosion of energy. It was the expansion of space itself beginning. With this expansion, matter, energy, and time emerged. In the first seconds, the universe consisted only of fundamental particles, quarks, electrons, photons. Then these began to combine. Atoms formed. The first hydrogen and helium gases spread into the vacuum of space. These gases came together to form the first stars. These stars shone with their enormous mass, and then died. But as they died, they left behind something very important. The heavy elements formed within the stars. The remnants of these dead stars, atoms necessary for life like iron, carbon, and oxygen, were scattered throughout the universe. This was the seed of our story. About 4.6 billion years ago, in a distant corner of the Milky Way galaxy, there was a giant cloud of gas and dust made up of these stellar remnants. One day, this cloud shook, perhaps by a nearby supernova explosion. This shaking caused the cloud to collapse inward. As the density increased, the matter collapsing towards the center began to heat up. This center was the birthplace of a star, our sun. As the sun formed, the disk of gas and dust rotating around it gave birth to the planets. From this disk, first small particles formed. These particles combined, collided, and grew. Eventually, from this disk, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and our home, Earth, began to take shape. The formation and early years of Earth. Shortly after the sun was born, the particles orbiting around it began to coalesce. Growing through collisions, these particles eventually became a planetesimal, the first proto-Earth. However, this newborn planet was not a calm place. Meteorites, asteroids, and giant rocks from all over space were crashing onto its surface. Each collision was a new catastrophe. The surface was covered in lava. There was no sky. An atmosphere had not yet formed. But the biggest event that would shape Earth's destiny had not yet occurred. About 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized celestial body, Theia, collided with Earth. This collision was so massive that our planet almost ceased to exist. But it didn't. Following this catastrophe, fragments of Theia and Earth were scattered into space. This debris eventually formed Earth's moon. The formation of the moon not only gave the sky a companion, it also shaped Earth's tilt, rotation, and even the tides of the oceans. In other words, it ensured Earth's stability. After the collisions, Earth slowly began to cool down again. The lava seas on the surface formed a crust. Volcanoes erupted, and gases from underground escaped. These gases eventually formed the first atmosphere: carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane. But there was no oxygen yet, and no life yet either. So where did the water come from? Scientists are focusing on two possible sources. One is the condensation of water vapor released from volcanic gases. The other is water-rich meteorites and comets that crashed into Earth. Which one was dominant is still debated. But eventually, as the surface cooled, the evaporated water condensed, and the rains began. It rained for thousands of years. The rain washed away the land, lava, and dust. The first oceans formed on Earth. Earth was finally beginning to look like a planet. But there was still no life. Just rock, water, and gas. Now we are entering the fascinating process where life began. The beginning of life. When the oceans formed, Earth was still chaotic. The temperature was high, and the sky was covered in a reddish haze. The atmosphere was toxic. Oxygen was still absent. But these primitive conditions provided the necessary environment for life to emerge. So how did life begin? Scientists still don't know the exact answer to this question. But there are some strong theories. According to the most common view, organic molecules formed in the primordial oceans. These molecules were the basic building blocks of life, such as amino acids, fats, and nucleotides. Sunlight, volcanic heat, and lightning constantly affected these substances. Chemical reactions accelerated. Perhaps hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the oceans, that is, hot springs, were the center of these reactions. Over time, these molecules came together to form more complex structures. And one day, one of these structures was able to replicate itself. This was the moment life began. It wasn't even a cell yet. But this first lifelike structure had begun to reproduce itself, using the molecules around it. As a result of millions of years of evolution, some of these structures were enclosed by a membrane. The first simple cells, prokaryotes, formed. These were the first living things on Earth. Single-celled microscopic organisms living in oxygen-free environments. It may seem simple to us today, but at that time, these organisms were revolutionizing Earth, because some of them began to produce food using light energy. This process, photosynthesis, triggered another revolution: oxygen. Photosynthetic microscopic organisms began to accumulate oxygen in the atmosphere. First it spread to the oceans, then to the sky. Oxygen was deadly to many organisms. A large part of them became extinct. But this was also necessary for the birth of complex life. For the first time, Earth began to breathe. With the rise of oxygen, Earth began to change. The atmosphere became protective. The ozone layer formed. Now living things were protected enough to come onto land. The first multicellular organisms appeared. Then, complex life diversified rapidly underwater. About 500 million years ago, the oceans literally exploded with life. This period is called the Cambrian explosion. Strange creatures swam in the seas, armored fish, trilobites, soft-bodied monsters. Then the land was conquered. Plants came, followed by insects and amphibians. Dinosaurs became the rulers of Earth. But this reign did not last forever. About 66 million years ago, a giant meteorite crashed into Mexico. Dust covered the sky. The sun was not visible for months. The dinosaurs went extinct. But this catastrophe was an opportunity for mammals. Over time, small mammals evolved, their brains grew. About 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens appeared, our species, and we carved stones, lit fire, looked at the sky, and asked, "Who am I? Where did this world come from?" Earth is not just an ordinary piece of rock. Born from the edge of the solar system, shaped by countless disasters, a living planet transformed over billions of years. There is life on it. Living things that think, feel, and ask questions. And you stepped onto the stage in just the last second of this long story. Now think about it. You are the product of 4.5 billion years of history. You are stardust. If this world isn't a miracle, then what is?